kind of fire build. And again, we've got two really good players. Krueger, we see some League Cup wins. Not to be outdone, Tord has actually got some really good accomplishments there. 3 international championship wins, a world semi-finalist in 2019. We have got two phenomenal players, came through with weird decks, switched to more standard decks. So let's head on over to the game and see how this one's gonna go.
Looks like we're going to be following Kevin's side of things, who is playing that Victini VMAX variant. He's got some spice in here as well to be aware of. He does play one copy of Wondrous Labyrinth Prism Star, which is pretty awkward for the Urshifu players, so something that you may see coming in at some point during the game. He's actually started it in his opening hand, which is not really the best place for it, but it's a card that you could be seeing throughout the series. Other than that, yeah, it's a thick Victini. He has one Mewtwo, one Reshiram and Charizard, one Heatran, so the sort of mini package going on, and then just that high welder count, the high 4 count of boss's orders, so trying to lean into these supporters as much as possible, as well as a couple of Pokegears to pick them out.
Yeah, that's a nice way to go about doing things. I mean, we've got another Victini deck here, and this one does really seem to be leaning into Victini like we saw before. Tord, for his part, he started with that Mimikyu. Now, that Mimikyu is actually a really nice one because it turns off the abilities of damaged Pokemon with, well, the damaged GXs, which means that if a Mewtwo or Mew takes any damage, that Mimikyu will actually stop it being able to copy any attacks, which is not really where you want to be going here. So it's a nice little tech. Kevin, it's not the best turn 1 we've ever seen.
Here's the thing about Victini, though. Attach Pass is actually still super scary. It's one of these decks, it's similar to like an ADP, where you need so little because you just know that there's still the reach that they have the following turn. Kevin debating the Wondrous Labyrinth Prism Star here. It means, you know, he may be forcing himself into a Welder next turn, rather than, you know, a crazy top deck of a VMAX, allowing him to boss his orders up towards Rapid Strike Urshifu if it comes into play. So I think here he's just saying, my hand's not the greatest, and I'm relying on this draw 3 next turn, or of course for Tord to replace the stadium.
Absolutely. Yeah, that stadium,
Tord actually Tord plays no counter stadium either, so this is just here for now.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're going to be fitting a free Chinchino line into every deck you make, sooner or later you've got to start cutting some cards somewhere.
Tord kicks off with a communication here, and he is going to have a look through his deck. One thing we know of Tord and many of the players who have made it to the top 16 is that a good rule of thumb is know what's in the prize cards, because then you can react accordingly. You don't get caught short at any point in the game, so making sure you're methodical going through, don't get caught up in the moment, and just making sure you know your outs is always going to be important. But one thing that's really different from Tord's 60 compared to a lot of these other Urshifus that we've already profiled today is that it's only playing, you know, that 3/3 Minccino counts. It plays 1 Dedenne GX, 1 Snorlax as well for early game draw. So it's built that little bit differently from most of the others that we've seen so far today. So the draw engine is a little bit different.
It is, but we know that Tord, you know, his MO as a player is testing. Tord tests an almost ridiculous amount, every deck he can think of. This is not some list that Tord will have just thrown together thinking, Chinchino's usually pretty good. Tord will have tested over and over with this deck, with the Chinchino list. And it's weird to see everyone else going down the Jirachi route and Tord going for Chinchino, but I think there comes a point, you know, when you've won 3 international championships and made top 4 at Worlds, maybe we have to start going, you know what, I think Tord might be right about this.
And we have another communication. In goes a Chinchino. So Tord actually does play like 1 Jirachi just to scoop up net bounce when he wants to. So he still gets the 1 dig out of it when he wants, which is hilarious to see. Everyone else is going like 3 or 4 copies, and Tord's saying, I'll just bounce the 1 with scoop up nets instead.
Be fine.
Yeah, Tord playing around with his Pokemon right now. He's already got an Urshifu V in hand. He's going to go for that Snorlax for the early Gormandize. It's actually a pretty tanky 1-prize Pokemon. We're going to see the Capture Energy come down as well turn 1 for Tord. He does play 4 copies, so he could be establishing a backup Urshifu if he's worried about Kevin going for Boss's Orders plays. But actually, no, there's a Wondrous Labyrinth, so you're not afraid of Boss at this point. You can just go for a Minccino fairly safely here, I think.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I love Snorlax. I mean, Snorlax has always been one of my favorite Pokemon. It's just a giant cuddly bear. How could you not love it? But this particular Snorlax is great. It's very much like the old Stadium card Tropical Beast, but as an ability, draw till you got 7 cards in your hand, end your turn. It's great draw, and it's built for turns like this. Tord needs a turn or two to get rolling, doesn't really have much on the board, so what we see is just Snorlax, Gorman dies till you got 7 cards in your hand, and then could potentially use it for another turn or two, or force Kevin to go through it. And this is, it's nice. It's a really good option. It has got a high retreat cost. You need to scoop up that or something to get it out the active, but still, it's a great option turn 1.
Man, and Kevin is kicking himself for putting down that Wondrous Labyrinth, I would have thought, because he topped it to Quick Ball, which obviously he wouldn't have known, but he could have made a really aggressive line where he could have just gone for Boss, Quick Ball to Dene, look for a KO on the Urshifu. Now you have no real easy path at all. Any attack with the V or the VMAX is not going to be doing much to Snorlax at all. 130 hit points is just an annoying number for Kevin's deck right now. So the Welder for 1, you may be discarding some of these excess fire energies and going for a Spreading Flames play. Or if Kevin wants to limit his bench, he could just leave a Victini VMAX as his only Pokemon in play here and just swing for 100 damage.
He could. That would work. Absolutely. It's not... Neither of this is ideal. Like you say, that Wondrous Labyrinth really is hurting Kevin a lot more than it's hurting Tord at this stage, because he would just be able to boss his orders and take the KO straight away. We know he's got the Pokemon communication. He's playing it right now. That gets the VMAX, boss his orders, get the KO. Of course, had that happened, Tord, you know, if that was an option, we're sure Tord would have used Capture Energy to get another Urshifu, but then that would have slowed him down because there wouldn't be a potential Chinchino next turn. So...
yeah. Big decisions from the out, changing the course of the game already, really. And Kevin does have the option to, like, hot burn GX if he wanted to. His own Wondrous Labyrinth is stopping a Steaming Stomp from a Heatran play here. So he may just be limited to max victory for 3 energies here.
Not what you want. It's an extra energy. It doesn't get a KO. It's not good against bigger single prize Pokemon. It's great against Pokemon Vs. It's great against those littler Pokemon, those your Jirachis, your Galarians, Zigzagoons. But Snorlax is pretty beefy. So, yeah, this is not the turn that Kevin particularly wanted. So... oh, it's not ideal. You don't... I mean, if you're going to hit the Snorlax, you really want a KO here.
Yeah, and you don't play any... well, Kevin doesn't play anything like Zigzagoon Scoop Up Net to try and make this number work for him. He's just kind of leaving it out there, taking a swing onto the Snorlax, maybe force Tord to have switch outs to even respond here. But Tord's hand size is large. He plays 3 copies of Birdkeeper, 3 Air Balloon as well, so he has lots of movement for Scoop Up Net. So we already see Tord get the VMAX established. We'll see if he can start pressurizing, if he can start working on any Minchinos as well. There's the Rapid Strike energy, so that perfectly plays around the Wondrous Labyrinth as well. It's hurting Kevin more than Tord right now.
Yeah.
If there's any more push potential here.
Turns out double energies are pretty good. And double energies have always been good. We've seen them over and over. We got twin energy and triple acceleration energy in the format as well at the moment, both of which have seen a fair bunch of play in various decks. And this is going to really help. It means that 1 energy attack is paid with double energy, goes around Wondrous Labyrinth. And then, see, you hit like 150 onto the Victini, putting it on a real clock before it goes down. And Kevin still is just not in a particularly good situation. There just isn't very much in Kevin's hand.
Tord going for an aggressive Dedenne GX here tells us that he doesn't have any switch outs in hand whatsoever. Oh, I tell a lie. There's a Scoop Net. It's going straight in. So Tord's still just wanting to draw the maximum amount of cards here. He's going to communicate that Snorlax and turn it into possibly an Urshifu V. Could even be a Chinchino if he just wants to get even more depth into his deck. One thing that's really good for Tord here is that he plays 1 copy of Cheryl. So if you can do this 150 poke with the Urshifu and you can set up a Cheryl to be in your hand next turn, you can wipe out a lot of Kevin's damage output.
Yeah, Cheryl completely heals all your evolved Pokemon at the cost of losing the energy on any Pokemon you healed. So for VMAXs, especially ones like Urshifu, which remember, when you use the big attack, you lose all the energy on it anyway. It's just wonderful. Cheryl... well, yeah, coming in pretty big here, potentially. And Tord really... I mean, if you look at the board here, Tord certainly seems to be having the flashier turns, but putting himself in a really good position in this game.
Yeah, already got that 150. you don't mind putting down a regular V, because even if Kevin does go chasing it, you've still got your VMAX with the 2 Rapid Strike energies on, so you almost submit to Kevin having a Boss's Orders play. You don't mind it at all. We are going to see a Bird Keep here. That means Tord either has Scoop Up Net or more Air Balloon in his hand right now, just to get those additional cards. Like we said, it feels very much like he's pushing towards Cheryl right now, just trying to grow that hand size as much as possible so he has the options for next turn.
He does. I mean, if you're Kevin, you've got to be thinking about taking out the V, because you know Tor plays Cheryl. We keep mentioning it. We are in an open deck list tournament here, and until that Cheryl gets played or hits a discard pile, you have got to be really thinking about it. Towards popping a Chinchino back here, could it be just another Minchino? Yep. It is. So just setting up that. I mean, if you can have 2 or 3 Chinchino on the board, you draw so many cards.
Yep, and Tord is going to simply free retreat with that Air Balloon, get that Gale Thrust in. He has filled up his board, so he'll have to find Scoop Up Net to then pick up his Zigzagoon to be able to 2-hit KO this Victini, but still very decent turn for him. Kevin is going to go chasing with the Boss's Orders here on the backup Urshifu, and we're probably going to have to start seeing some helpful basic Pokemon coming down to allow Kevin to draw some more cards here, because you cannot leave this one Victini in play. It's not enough anymore.
No, you need to have something else. So we do see the Crobat here. It's going to be coming down. Of course, if you've got an empty hand, Crobat and Dedenne are essentially the same thing. So this is just getting you a new hand of 6 cards. Of course, Dedenne is on the board potentially as well. You can only play one of each of them using the abilities each turn, but you can play one of each. So there's definitely potential here for a bunch of cards being drawn by Kevin, but he needs to start, thinking about how, I'm sure he is, thinking about how he's going to be mapping out these prizes, because, I mean, you take out this Urshifu V, and that's lovely, but are you then going to start going after things like the Dene? Are you going to be trying to 2-hit KO the V Max? That Victini in the active isn't going to last forever, and it's giving up free prizes, so it's a slightly precarious position here.
Yeah, I think for Kevin, it's take the prizes as they sit. There's going to be this Urshifu he can knock out. Potentially the Dene can be Cramranted. And you really want to hit the VMAX with like a Marnie or a Stamp, because you can't allow Tor to have the large hand size, because it's too likely that there'll be a Cheryl. So you really only want to hit the VMAX when you're lowering that hand size. So Kevin going to take the 2 for now, submit some prize cards, hope the next Victini VMAX can really put in a bit of a shift for the other turns, and that he can combine it with a Reset Stamp.
I think that's got to be the way to go. It's certainly absolutely winnable for both players. I mean, we've seen this matchup. It was quite a tightly contested 2-1 series. We could very well be seeing that again. The thing is, and was one of the things that Chinchino does so well above Jirachi, Reset Stamp becomes way less good when it's not a Reset Stamp to 1, it's actually a Reset Stamp to 6, because you're going to draw for your turn and have 2 Chinchino, and then if you're drawing 6 cards, you're probably hitting a supporter card or something along those lines. So I'm not saying Tor's deck is, completely Reset Stamp proof, but I am saying it is a darn sight less scared of it than the vast majority of decks out there.
And Tord's hand is good when his first make-do is to get rid of a Bird Keeper. He wants to grow his hand as much as possible, so seeing that not get established is kind of scary for Kevin. We do see a Capture Energy come down for Tord as well. It's going to be a Zigzagoon just so that he can Scoop Up Net it back up. Big brain plays from Tord. That's an easy way to find it. He can take that 1 damage counter onto the VMAX now. He's got the KO, and he's combining it with a Marnie rather than the Bird Keep here.
I mean, we talk a lot, when we watch Tord on the stream, we talk a lot about how good a player he is and how meticulous he is and how good his decks are, but oh my goodness, Capture Energy for a Galarian Zigzagoon so you can Scoop Up Net it to do that 10 damage to get the KO on Victini V Max. That was a phenomenal play, and Tord is just in a great position. And because Kevin took out the Urshifu V last turn, Tord has now got a completely undamaged Urshifu V Max with free energy on. Things are looking pretty good. Oh, that is not a good hand from Kevin.
Okay, we like the Reset Stamp. That's kind of the biggest card he needed. You can just hit with the regular Victini here.
No,
and
you
hit
can't.
100. Oh, no, you can't. Yeah, he can counter Stadium, right? He can counter Stadium.
Oh, he's got the count. I did not see the counter stadium in hand. My apologies. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
So
can
you
counter
can
stadium
prod.
and hit.
That's as good as it's going to get for you. And then you just hope that the top deck gets you out. You may even use the Giant Half just to filter some more fires out of your deck. I think you just have to play the cards here now. You have to stamp now, I think.
Yeah.
It's
I think
too
you're
likely that
absolutely
Tord
right.
can Cheryl otherwise. It's just too likely.
And there is only one Chinchino down, which is not, you might hit the second one, but it's at least not as bad as it is going to be later on in the game. So I think you're absolutely right. It is just kind of reset stamp, counter stadium, hit for as much as you can and just cross your
150,
fingers. Yeah, 30 times 5 energy will be 150. So it's not ideal, but I think it's the best you can do at this stage.
Because you're basically losing to Cheryl, so you can't wait on the stamp, I don't think.
No.
I feel like it's pretty greedy to hold on it. Kevin's really taking his time on it, though. I like him using the giant half, just thin those cards, because you need to top deck. You're going to hit into him, and you're going to play the stamp here, I feel, every time.
I don't know. It's not happened yet.
I say every time, but maybe not every time. Kevin's going into the tank to think about it. Wow. Trying to get more value gives Tord just way too many cards, I think, to find the Cheryl here.
Yeah, and he's still got the Chinchino for 2, and then potentially another Chinchino for 2. There's a level ball. Chinchino's got a beautiful 90 HP, which does mean it could be grab a level ball, unless I'm misremembering one of my favourite cards. No, I'm not. That would have been embarrassing, but I called it 90 HP, which level ball is one of the new cards that was actually reprinted in Battle Stars. We've seen it before.
Yep.
It's huge. For things like Chinchino, just being able to search them out so much more easily, not having to rely on a quick ball or things of that nature, not having to use Pokemon communication. So I love this. And of course, quick ball can only get basics. Level ball can get evolutions if they're small enough. Tord, there's a lot going on. Is actually grabbing a Snorlax here. Might just be Chinchino fodder.
Yeah, it's probably fodder at this point. Tord's going low so that he can try and find that Cheryl switch combo, really, this turn. Or Cheryl scoop up net, I should say, is what he's looking for, because he can just air balloon out and then switch, or scoop up net, I should say. That's what Tord's digging for. Still has potential Stellar Wish as well. If he has double scoop up net in hand, he could scoop up net like Zigzagoon and then Stellar Wish. Looks like we're not seeing anything. There is the switch, so always a scoop up net here. Tord can just hit into the Victini and reestablish another V here if he has whiffed on the Cheryl. By the looks of things, that is what's happened. So Kevin's taking the risk, and it's actually working for him right now.
I mean, that's what you want. When you don't play the reset stamp, you're hoping Tord whiffs the Cheryl so that you can play the reset stamp later on in the game where it's going to be a little bit more impactful. It was a huge risk, as you pointed out. Seems like it's paying off here. And for Kevin's point of view, all he needs to do here is just get the V max, and that will be enough for a KO.
Yep, so we're just going to see the Gale Thrust for 150 again from Tord. And wow, Kevin gets the Welder. We're in business. We can draw some cards here at the very least. Kevin also plays Heatran in his deck, so any energies, even on random things like Crobat, can be helpful for you.
And yeah, actually the GX attack here would be enough for energy 200.
Oh, Heatran's knocked out,
total.
okay. Or Heatran's in the discard pile, I should say. So
That's
not quite
okay.
as good, but yeah. So it's going into the active. That means you can take the KO now. You're up to 330 with this extra Welder attachment. You can put down Cramorant. Now the stamp could be coming in with a KO alongside it. See, the stamp doesn't even feel that good this turn now because you're not afraid of anything. It's really strange timing of the reset stamp.
I think you are still potentially afraid of a Rapid Strike Energy VMAX Lysander, or Boston Borders Lysander play.
That's true.
And that actually would end the game. That'd be a double KO. So no, I really like the stamp.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So again, it's that G-Max Overflow, I think it's called. That's what we're looking for here.
Yeah.
Rapid Flow, thank you. All we need is a Rapid Strike Energy, VMAX, Boss's Orders, and that would be the game. And there is double Chinchino on the board, so that could work.
Tord's going to go ahead and level ball. It does also allow him to access Jirachi if he needs to Stellar Wish as well. Still has a few scoop up nets, I believe, in his deck remaining, so we'll see what he wants to pick out. It could just be any sort of fodder card for Make Do at the same time, because as you say, he is going to make a push here.
He is. I don't think so. No, Zigzag. Kevin's checking like we are. Like, is that in Zigzagoon range? It's not really. Not realistically. I don't think Tord's got enough resources left. It would take 4 headbutt tantrums, which is quite a lot.
Let's see if Tord can piece anything together here. Even if he's not pushing for win, he could Zigzagoon Strafe KO into something bulky. and he could stamp as well. I believe he still has 2 reset stamps available on his end, trying to disrupt Kevin. So even if there's no win from Tord this turn, he's still got many defensive tools he can use.
Well, I mean, essentially, Kevin would just need Welder energy, and then Cramorant would take the KO with Spit Shot. There's no Mew down at the moment, and he's only got 1 prize remaining, so doesn't even really matter what Tord strafes into in that situation. Kevin would just be essentially a Welder away from winning the game. So, there is a Rapid Strike energy.
Uh-oh. This could be scary for you. So Tord could establish Mew. He does play Mew, and he could just use 100 Furious Blows into the active this turn. That's another route for him. So many options for Tord. I feel like the stamp's the thing that you want the most, though.
You do. I think you've either got to take the KO on... There's the Mew, yeah.
So 100 Furious Blows it's going to be, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind this play at all. Kevin now needs nothing really, because he needs Boss's Orders and Welder, and you ain't getting both of them in one turn.
No. You can Elder Goss for Welder. I don't think there's enough energies in his deck remaining to use the Giant Hearth for full value, though. So I don't think you can burst a Mewtwo onto the scene.
No. Oh, this is super awkward for Kevin. He's only got 1 prize remaining, but what's he even attacking with next turn? There's a 60 HP Mew on the bench.
Okay, that's not a helpful card. Depends really on how many energies are remaining in this deck of his. I think he's halved out almost all of these energies because he's been kind of bricking in that mid-game. So we'll see. Kevin's not playing anything too quickly. We are going to see... Yeah, so there's 8, 9, 10 energy accounted for. That's all 10 of Kevin's energy, actually. So he needs to find Fire Crystal to be able to launch any attack whatsoever here.
Yeah. Oh, he'd need Fire Crystal, but he'd need Fire Crystal before the Welder.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have Fire Crystal.
You can Elder Goss... No, you can't get there with any attack, right?
I don't think you can. So I think, is he just going to go for Victini to accelerate a bunch of energy?
Yeah.
And hope?
A Spreading Flames turn, possibly, by the looks of things.
I think that is legitimately your best option here. If he's got no energy in the deck, he would need Fire Crystal before he played Welder. Now, if he had free energy in a Welder, that would be game. But it's not possible, not without having the Fire Crystal already in hand. Now, there is the Mew. This is pretty big to stop. No, actually doesn't.
I don't think...
Sorry.
He's possibly just playing around Reset Stamp of Tord's side again here.
Yeah.
You can go for this Spreading Flames play. You just shove through onto Mewtwo, I guess. And then just send it Tord's way and try and dodge Boss's Orders at this point.
Yeah, if Tord's got Boss's Orders, this is all completely irrelevant. And he does have a 6-card hand. He's got 2 Chinchino already out. I mean, there's only one. There's the Boss's Orders onto Crobat, Mew. Yeah.
Crobat
really matter.
Yeah, exactly. Crobat for the weakness stats, of course. Yeah, so a nice close there from Tord. I mean, he didn't, he was drawing a lot of cards, but he didn't actually piece together everything every single time. He was drawing so much and just didn't find the reset stamp when he needed, didn't find the Cheryl when he needed, but still was able to claw enough resources to get over the line against Kevin there. So, yeah, a surprising sort of game. Things didn't really go methodically. Kevin had that awkward mid-game after trying to be quite conservative in the opening to deny GMAX Rapid Flow from really taking over the board and deny Tord some value. It meant that an early Marley was really awkward for Kevin, but he was able to slowly get back into it, just not quite enough. Tord was able to finally get to the bottom end of his deck and find those last pieces to win.
Absolutely, and Kevin came really close. If there was just a couple more energy in his deck, or if he had a Fire Crystal, that would have been a very, very different end to the game. Unfortunately, it did not happen, so let's head on over into Game 2 and see if Kevin can just have that little bit more luck here. I don't feel this is a particularly one-sided matchup one way or the other. I don't think it's like the last game we saw where Mike really was in the driver's seat unless something went wrong. Kevin can win this, but Tord's got a deck that can do weird, tricksy things, and Tord is a very, very good player. So it is, already going in one game down. You got to think Tord's a favourite to carry on in this particular matchup.
The good news is Kevin is going first. He does have early access to his Victini V. He's going to start out with the Volcanion, which is far from ideal. But yeah, he can have a decent turn 1. He's got Switchblades in hand and can Crobat Dig next turn. So his hand is looking really solid. You know, it's going to be an attached pass again, probably, goes on to Victini V. But this time his hand can take him further than the last game, and he can actually be threatening Urshifus much more realistically this time around.
Yeah, I love this. And it just comes down to when you go first, you are going to have, well, if everything goes well, of course, you are going to have a Victini V max before your opponent can evolve their Vs. And that is the key. If you're against decks that revolve around Pokemon Vs, Victini just kind of, you know, rubs his little hands together and runs. If you're against a V max deck, it really is that kind of, I need to try and get them before they end up using their VMAXs. Because when they VMAX, it turns into a 2-hit KO, and that is not the same situation.
Yeah, that's not the power that you want. You want the Victini to be really getting in first, taking away like energy attachments and stuff on top. Wow, we're actually going to see Kevin go for the switch early here. So he's going to be Crobatting first, possibly just, wow, holding or just getting rid of everything. Gets the Welder for next turn. He may forego it, knowing that he actually wants to boss his orders instead. So he may have just been burning this Poké Gear, having a little think about it.
I like it.
It's not obvious. Yeah, it's not obvious to take the Welder because your ideal play is still boss on 2.
It is, but it's opening up options. It means, you know, I love going for the potential boss play next turn. Oh, we did actually just see it being discarded.
Yeah, really aggressively digging for boss by the looks of things. An extra discard, and leaving the Welder in the discard pile does mean you have the Eldegoss V potential as well. So it's kind of better than just shuffling it back into the deck. You've got kind of more instant access to it when you need it. So I don't mind this. You've established a decent hand size. You're not threatening boss right now with the hand as it lies, but Tord's not to know that. So he may have to play accordingly here and get double Urshifu down.
And that is one of the awesome things about this kind of start, about a Pokemon like Victini. You can basically force your opponent to play suboptimally because they have to play around your threat. Like we saw in that game a little bit ago where, you know, just a big turn 1 plus air and escape rope really almost ended that game on turn 1. And Victini is far better at doing that than someone like a Reshiram and Charizard. And we do actually see a Kricketune down from Kevin. That's another one of those new cards that is popping up there. It lets you draw 2, you got 3 cards in hand, 4 if it's in the active. So it's just a nice little draw engine throughout the game if you can keep lowering your hand size.
Tord's going to go ahead and level ball actually for Jirachi. Now a Bird Keeper for 3 cards and then a Stellar Wish. He only plays 1 copy of Jirachi. It allows you to have those extra deep digs, and when you already are playing so many scoop-up nets, it certainly is valid. Tord now going to go ahead and play another level ball, possibly for just another Minccino here. And like we say, he's digging towards those quick balls with this Stellar Wish, and he's looking to try and find Urshifus, maybe even end on a Snorlax again. His hand size is kind of big right now, but if he can use things like communication to lower it and maybe turn attach, he could still be looking to Gormandize because it is a tanky 1-prizer that he can use against Kevin and force boss's orders.
And that did work very, very well in the previous game. And once again, we see Tord building up his hand size there. He's really trying to get as many options as he can. It's the way he builds his deck. It's the way he plays. It means that when we get down to the late game, you know, we had all that drama in game 1, and yeah, he had the boss. Didn't have those combo pieces throughout the game with the Cheryl, but, oh, having said that, it looks, oh no.
He's got the quick ball right now. Yeah, I think that's just Kevin's side, just saying, telling us what status conditions are. All of our finalists, they get a special account to play on PTCGO, so they have to just go through the rigmarole of ticking boxes again, letting us know what status conditions are. These guys know perfectly well what status conditions do in this game. They know pretty much everything about this game.
For a minute there, I thought Tord was passing a turn without an Urshifu down, which with his hand size would have been suboptimal and borderline unbelievable. As it stands, he's got a Minccino with a air balloon. It's taken him a while to really establish anything here.
Well, he's got the quick ball, which I'm sure he's happy with. That's at least an Urshi. He can go ahead and Stellar Wish again. The only thing that's awkward this time about leaving a Jirachi out is that it's an easy prize for Kevin. No matter what happens, you can just attach and take a easy 1 prize. You'd much prefer it to be a Snorlax, but Tord may be thinking about turning it into something else here, this quick ball.
Well, it depends if he's got another route to the Urshifu. If he can get the Urshifu, I want to see him get a Snorlax. I think that'd be an excellent plan. We see the Urshifu coming out, so at least there's going to be that. Would be nice. And is that a capture energy?
Yeah, that's a really nice play. It could either be backup Urshi if you're scared of boss, or it could be a big reload with Snorlax and take that hedge. Really depends on how strong his hand is.
I love the Snorlax play. Well, should he quick ball for Urshifu or Snorlax? And Tor's like, why not both?
Yeah, exactly. This capture energy, we've seen him use it in his control archetype, and as we see, Tord is safeguarding around just getting done in, really, by an early aggressive boss from Kevin. Kevin plays 4 Boss's Orders and 2 Pokegears, so you always have to be playing around that. It's not difficult. It's always in range of Kevin, in theory.
Absolutely. And Kevin, with that Victini V Max, if he can just keep taking out the only Urshifu every turn, that is going to lead to a very short, unfulfilling game for Tord. So, does get those 2 Urshifu down, does have the double Minccino as well, and got the energy. Pretty much everything you could want from turn 1. For Kevin's side, he gets the Victini V Max, he's got the second energy on there, and now is he going to dig to try and get that Boss's Orders? It looks like he's eyeing up a Dedenne here, so certainly looks like it might be a Boss's Orders turn if he can find his way towards it.
Yeah, Boss's Orders is good. A backup Victini V would also be really nice for him, or trying to get to work on a Mewtwo as well. These are all things that you want to go for here. He is going to have to get rid of his Wondrous Labyrinth. We do see Boss's Orders come in, and there's a snap pick from Kevin. That's what he was digging for. He can max victory now for an easy 2-prize swing.
I like this. And if Tord doesn't V-Max next turn, Kevin can do it again. He actually do double Boss's Orders, so I like this a lot. Okay, fine, Tord's probably going to have the V-Max, but it means if he doesn't, Kevin is going to take just a huge lead in this game. Or if Tord just benches another Urshifu V, so he's got a backup, that's in range of a Boss's Orders here. So Tord's going to have to make some decisions as to whether he wants to actually bench a backup Urshifu or just go forward with one for the moment. This is what Victini does.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are putting down another easy 2-prizer, then your board is basically locked the entire remainder of the game, just allowing Kevin to boss once more or even use Cramorant once again. So Tord probably going to try and keep it tight, trying to... Looks like an Urshifu is being thrown in here for some other options. We'll see how he wants to play this. I'd be surprised if we're not going to see the VMAX come in and swing, but maybe his hand size is low enough that he needs to Dede change this board instead.
Could be an option, absolutely. I mean, Crobat and Dedenne, they're the cards we see in pretty much every single deck, but they're there for a reason. They are draw, and it's not just that they draw. Oh, he's swapped an Urshifu for an Urshifu, it looks like.
He's dancing them, yep.
But it's the fact that you can quick ball for that draw, which is so huge. Or you can Pokemon Communication for that draw, and it turns, you know, a quick ball into a new hand of 6 cards before you've even played your supporter. So they are just such phenomenal cards. And I know seasoned veterans watching this will be like, yeah, yes, we know this. But for newer players, you're going to see this in every deck. And there is a pretty gosh darn good reason for it.
Wow, look at this. Tord's got the Rapid and the Karate Belt. So the G-Max Rapid Flow is open for him. If he would like to, he could go for potential Boss's Orders plays and deal with, like, the Crobat and the Volk all in one turn, and then you're just trying to Gale Thrust your way through the Victini. That's an easy path for him. He's got the fresh 6 cards from the Dedenne GX. He can go ahead and start level balling out some Chinchinos, so he can begin to make do and once again establish that large hand size.
Yeah, a Boss's Orders here would be absolutely huge. And once again, there's no Mew on the bench. And when there's no Mew on the bench, things get very, very bad very, very quickly. Kevin does play Mew in his list, but I didn't look for it when he was searching through his deck. I don't know whether it's prized or he just hasn't got round to it yet, but if you don't get round to getting your Mew out, these are the kind of turns you open yourself up to, and it really is a key interaction when you're playing against these Rapid Strike Urshifu decks. It's not enough to have it in your deck. You've actually got to get it on the board quickly, even when you'd rather have other Pokemon instead.
Yeah, Kevin's been prioritizing tempo, which is certainly excusable. It's given him some really good opening turns, but Tord is punishing that with the early find of Karate Belt, potentially here, if he can go for Make Do and end on a boss here. Even if he does just end on, like, a Bird Keep play and draw cards instead, he could just easily Gale Thrust 2-hit KO through this Victini if he has access to Zigzagoon over the next 2 turns.
And this is one of the awkward things about when you're playing... Oh, we had a boss's orders. I actually got rid of it with Make Do. So does he have another, or does he have another boss's orders, or does he have another plan in mind?
Yeah, possibly a different plan, because he only plays 2 copies of the boss's orders. He plays Mewtwo and Scoop Up Net to try and recover them, but it may not be part of his plan this turn.
So just going after the Victini VMAX straight. It's hard to argue with that. That Victini VMAX is a nice free prize Pokemon, and Tord might be trying to go after the Victini now, going, look, I can boss his orders at Crobat and Volcanion later. They're not going anywhere. What I actually really want to do now, I want to get rid of the threat. I can take those easy free prizes another turn, and Kevin looks like he might be thinking the same thing as us there. Like, hang on a second. That would have been bad, but...
Ooh, nice. Tord weaving in a stamp here as well, down to 4 cards in the early stages. Basically, Tord saying, you've only got 1 threat. If I just stamp you and you can't establish another one, that's an easy win for me.
Yeah, it's a pretty good game plan, to be honest with you. Now, the good news is there is a giant half on the board, and Kevin has drawn into both a Reshiram and Charizard and a Welder. So we are going to be able to see at least 2 energy coming down on that Reshiram if that's where Kevin wants to go. So there is another potential Pokemon coming down here. But Tord knows that that Rapid Strike Urshifu is not being 1-hit KO'd. So he's got a little bit of time here, and if you've got 2 VMAXs that are 2-hit KOing each other, you want to be in Tord's position and take the first hit.
How about Mewtwo as a play? If Mewtwo's in the deck, this could be a huge turn for Kevin.
Oh,
could be seeing
that
some
it
Cricketune
could.
value as well. Wow, this could be a monster turn. If it's available.
Absolutely. That would be cool. And we do see...
Oh, it's not here. Man, that is rough.
That is rough, because he also got rid of the Reshiram and Charizard to go and grab it, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because Mewtwo and Mew copies GXs in your discard pile or on the field, so you discard it and then grab the Mewtwo. Did Kevin know that it was not there?
Yeah, I'm sure he must have known. He looked through his
so.
prizes on the opening stages.
So it looks like Cram...
Yeah, well,
works.
Cram is the play by the looks of things. We're going to see the Giant Hearth. Probably just get rid of the VMAX at this stage. And then you weld to the Cram. You could still just be hitting into the active here. It's still the biggest threat for Tord, and his hand size is low, so you play around Cheryl fairly well this way round. And you just go for Spit Shot into Spit Shot, basically, and just establish both to be fairly stamp-proof. Certainly a reasonable play for him.
I like it a lot. And the other thing is, like we've said, Cramorant does have a resistance to fighting, which means that you can Spit Shot the active if you want, or the Dedenne, as he's going for, taking those 2 prizes, and you know you're not getting KO'd this turn. You're buying yourself a little bit of time. Problem now for Kevin is he's down to 2 prizes remaining, but there's no easy 2-prize Pokemon on Tord's side of the field, and it's a weird one, because if Tord benches any Pokemon V, you got to think Kevin's winning the game.
Yeah,
so
he won't.
Well, he won't, exactly, but that kind of locks Tord into this 1 VMAX for the rest of the game now.
I think what Kevin's saying is, because there's the Karate Belt attached, it's not easy for Tord to get in and out of the active and do a Gale Thrust boss play on the Victini, because Tord only relies on Air Balloons and Bird Keepers, so he can't Bird Keep boss. So this forces Tord to use the G-Max Rapid Flow this turn, and it could require a boss's orders for that play as well.
It could. It absolutely could. I mean, it would be 3 prizes. It would be 2 KOs. It would be a nice one. It's just kind of turning into a kind of a strange game. Kevin is really locking down Tord's options between the Crobat and the Victini V Max, really saying to Tord, look, there are only certain plays you can make here, but Tord's got the Chinchino, and he's already got his VMAX established. So Kevin is certainly making life awkward for Tord. But maybe we'll see an attack, and then we'll see a Cheryl, and then we'll see Tord be building it up from there.
I think with a Mewtwo, it means Tord can just go boss's orders onto Dedenne, take the 3-prize KO. He's actually going to make do before the Mewtwo. So again, not wanting to spend the Mewtwo just yet. I believe that's both make do's used now. So let's see what supporter he wants to use this turn.
And actually, it's important to note, Kevin didn't get the Mewtwo and Mew off the prize, and that's probably why he went for the Dedenne.
Sure.
To try and get that Mewtwo and Mew to take out the Urshifu. But he whiffed it. That Mewtwo and Mew is still in those final 2 prizes. So like you predicted, it does have to be the bigger attack this turn, hitting 120 to the Crobat minus resistance, and then 120 to the bench. But without boss's orders, or indeed 2 bench Pokemon, that is not the best use of it.
I'm kind of surprised by that, to be honest. Tord could have set up a potential 2-turn win, because he could have Mewtwo'd and then Make Dude and then dealt with Dedenne and Volk. Maybe he's just trying to keep Kevin's board locked so he can't get destroyed by a Mewtwo here. That's probably why Tord's taking this line instead.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all. We know that Kevin whiffed the Mewtwo and Mew, but Tord does not know that.
Yeah.
And Tord knows it's prized at this stage. Yeah, he's seen the deck list. He's watched Kevin play the game. Tord knows that it at least was in the prizes. So it looks like we got a max victory here. Take out the Cinccino, limit Tord's options a little bit, put Kevin down to 1 prize. And I like this because, an escape rope is huge because he's scared of Cheryl. We're all scared of Cheryl. Cheryl is terrifying. So by taking 2 single prizes, you take away that option of Cheryl, and Tord is not winning this turn. Tord can take 5 prizes, but he can't take 6.
It's going to be, for me, if Tord can have the ideal turn, it's stamp to 1 and go for the G-Max Rapid Flow, take the 5, deal with the Kricketune. That also means that Kevin has no draw engine remaining, and it means he has very few options, no energy left in the field or anything. So that's what Tord's looking for. He's still got 16 cards remaining in his deck. The Stellar Wish is a big one here. Only 1 Make Do to help him get there. He needs to find Rapid Strike Energy. Needs to find Reset Stamp. These are the big cards he needs. And a switching out, of course. I imagine there's already some rooting around in his deck. It's just if he can close here.
This would be big. Reset Stamp to 1, taking out the Victini, which is the attacker, taking out the Kricketune. And then, what does Kevin do at that stage? I suppose at that point,
Hot deck.
Yeah, you need Welder free energy to Cramorant. So Tord's probably going to be trying to look for a Mew as well here to stop Cramorant plays onto Cinccino.
There's the Rapid Strike. He's got the Scoop Up Net switch out. Does he have the Stamp to boot? That would make this an ideal turn. He could still Air Balloon into a Cinccino and try again with more Scoop Up Nets, but not there for him. Tord's forced to just take the 5 prize KO. I say just. It's still a fantastic turn, but it is vulnerable. Tord is playing around Cramorant now.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Because he needed a Mew. If he didn't have the Mew, then... And to be fair, Mew might not have been the best idea because it's so weak. So I think at this stage, you G-Max Rapid Flow, and he knows the Mew... No, he doesn't know, but he knows...
Next 2 prizes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he only loses to Mew. Hey, he still doesn't have Mew to a Mew. Is it the last prize?
Yes.
Oh.
You hate to see it. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty rough. Yeah, Tord, he had a really interesting option. Maybe Tord had Stamps prized because he could have, instead of going this route, I think it's a more winning play is to try 1 more Stellar Wish for Stamp. So possibly his Stamps were just not accessible for him, or maybe he was thinking the 33% if potentially a Stamps prize wasn't good enough odds. And this way you play around the Cram much better, and then you just hope that the prize is awkward for Kevin, which incidentally it is, of course. The Stamp is going to be big, though.
Oh, yeah, Stamp to 1. That is so upsetting for Kevin. So close. He could have Eldegossed for the Welder, and then I think he's got the energy he needs, and then from there he could have just attacked with Mewtwo and Mew for the game. But Mewtwo and Mew being his final prize has really cost Kevin here. And, does he have a better play than just using Beat Catch to search the perfect 2 cards for next turn?
Yeah, I think he's going to try and just set up... it looks like going for the Heatran here. Weld to Heatran and just hit with Weld onto it and go for the Steaming Stomp, hoping to Hot Burn the following turn. That's the 2-turn path for him.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the way to go. It does hit the energy, that is crucial. So he does get to play the Escape Rope. Switches his Heatran in, attaches his energy. And, he did have a Stadium, so he was going to hit the energy anyway. Okay, so puts himself on a 2-turn clock. And to be fair, as much as a Mewtwo and Mew being gone is very, very sad, it doesn't look like Tord's got much going on here at all. He's got a 1-card hand, no draw on the board, no energy on the board, and is going to be KO'd and lose the game next turn. What are Tord's 2 cards in hand? It doesn't look like it's much. Wow. Tord concedes, and Kevin, he's even it up at 1 game each. An improbable victory?
Yeah, that ended up really, really nicely for Kevin. Just the stamp at the right time. Tor did everything to not lose, basically, but then the stamp just means that he has nothing left. And because Tor has an unconventional list, just 1 to Den AGX, he doesn't have those same quick ball outs just to be like, haha, here's 6 more cards, here's research for another, 7. His is more methodical. And when you don't have those Chinchinos around to get yourself out of those spots, you can feel, pretty weak and get punished by those reset stamps. I feel like Tor's last turn, it must have been down to stamps being prized, because I think almost always you go for that scoop up net and try again with the wish to hit the stamp, because if you're taking out Cricketoon and you're taking out their only attacker all in one turn, a stamp to 1 would have been the exact thing that Kevin's just done to Tord, right? Leave him with nothing remaining on board and just 1 card to play with. So it must be down to prize cards, which is why that option wasn't available, I have to think.
You've got to think so. And, with Tord not having his reset stamp and Kevin not having his Mewtwo and Mew, we had to see both the players adapt.
That's fair.
It was... I don't think either of them were done particularly well by their prizes. So let's head on over into Game 3 then and see what the resolution is going to be. I like it when we end up at 1 game apiece in best of 3s. It makes things a little bit more exciting, and both players can win this game. It's a very winnable game for either player, and as much as Tord looked like the favourite going in, we just saw Kevin win a game where, things were not going great for him until the end, where they went very great for him.
All right, looks like Tord is going to be being able to go first in this Game 3, so he's not quite as vulnerable to the early aggressive Boss's Orders plays from Kevin. It does mean that he's vulnerable to the early Welder plays from Kevin, though, because Victini is so good going first and second. So we'll see how both players start out. Kevin's got a decent hand. He's got good push potential with his quick ball and his communication. Starts out with Victini, which isn't too shabby. We'll see how Tord can respond here.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Tord starts with that Mimikyu again. There's that 2 games started with a Mimikyu. And I'm fairly sure that's a one-of. We do see a level ball, though, that can get a Jirachi or a Minccino. Probably a Jirachi if he's got some kind of switching option, get Stellar Wishing turn 1. So that's going to at least start him off here. And like we've seen with, with Victini and with Urshifu decks, it really is, can I get a Pokemon V and an Energy turn 1? Because that's all you're really looking for.
Yeah, the same for both these sides, really. Just get that V down, threaten that V max. Both of them have huge power spikes. The Victini V has the potential to Boss's Orders and deal with anything trying to evolve up if it is a V. And the Urshifu has the potential to cherry pick multiple Pokemon for that G-Max Rapid Flow. So Tord kicks off with that level ball, gets the Minccino down. It could be even a play where you go ahead and Capture Energy the Minccino. He already has double Urshi, though. His hand is looking pretty solid by the looks of things.
Oh, no energy.
Kevin here. Yeah, no energy is a little bit rough, but typically you go Gale Thrusting early anyway. So it's not the biggest loss for him, but it may be an indicator that he doesn't have any draw for next turn. So something to bear in mind.
Yeah, might want to go for research over Marnie, because Kevin does have both those options. First, he's got a few other things to do. He's got himself a Cricketune, which he's wondering to play or not. I think it's got to go down. It's too good at drawing throughout the game, and he's going to end up with weaker Pokemon on the bench anyway. We've seen this in both games, so I don't think it's a huge decision there. But
yeah,
now
he can already try and get some value out of it this turn. He can Calm and Quick Ball, and he can even net a couple cards if you leave the Cricketune active. I feel like you don't want to use either of these supporters realistically. You want to be hitting that Welder play, or you could go for a Research Flare Starter. That's an other route for him, where you just set up double Victini V. That seems reasonable as well.
That could work. That could be nice. And that's the thing, Victini is so much less reliant on Welder than other decks. If you can get a couple of manual attachments and a Flare Starter, you're not really going to be worried much throughout the game. It's not like those more traditional fire decks we've seen over the past couple years, where whiffing Welder really is huge. How many Welder decks used to play 4 copies of Boss's Orders? It wasn't a viable strategy because of how little you'd get to use them, but when you're not having to Welder turn after turn, you can Boss's Orders, and when Jirachi is so good at taking out those 2 prize Pokemon, you can see why it's so gosh darn popular.
And Kevin's prize Mewtwo again, just saying.
Oh, really?
Not again, Kevin, not in Game 3. I'm pretty sure on the first search, we may be seeing something different with the communication here, but he may just be going for Crobat instead. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not there. Yeah,
No, it's
dice.
not there.
No dice with the Mewtwo and Mew once again for Kevin.
Oh, and you play it for, this is a main matchup you've got to be playing it for, other than other Mewtwo and Mew decks, but they have been largely surpassed by Fire decks with Mewtwo and Mew, so it's so annoying to have it prized 2 games in a row. I mean, I'd love to say, it can't be the last prize 2 games in a row, but it could.
Yeah, Kevin, just debating the communication. I actually do like having double Victini down. I think it makes the most sense. You can exciting stage for a couple cards. You get a couple awkward ones. You don't like getting rid of your Fire Crystal, but you're trying to have a deeper dig towards Fire Energy in the first place. You possibly could just discard an extra Victini here. Not sure what your least helpful card is in the deck right now. Kevin opting for the Heatran could even be coming into play here as a Hot Burn GX option. And just the research, we do see the Fire Energy, so there will be a Flare Starter at the very least. Not much else going on in the hand at all. So fortunately, he can establish these energies for next turn with the Volcanion.
Yeah, I like this a lot. You got 1 Victini now ready to go, 1 Victini that's an energy away. And it means for the next couple of turns, unless you really want to go nuts with a Heatran, you don't care about Welder. So we got 2 Boss's Orders there. We got 2 Pokemon Communication and a Reset Stamp. We could see a couple of turns of Kevin just picking off Pokemon from Tord's bench, although it is going to really depend what happens on Tord's turn. And he's playing a Quick Ball, so may well be a Dedenne unless he's already got something in hand. It is Dedenne.
Yep, here's the Dedenne GX, so he's going to have 6 fresh cards and then the Make Do on top. Looking for double VMAX would be ideal. He had to get rid of a Reset Stamp and a Cheryl there, I think, which is a little bit awkward. But actually, supporting the discard pile isn't that bad for Tord because you can Mewtwo Make Do straight into it. So it's actually not that terrible. He is going to Make Do get rid of a Capture Energy. It's great on turn 1, but it's terrible in the mid-game where it's not acting as a fighting energy. And that's exactly what Tord's looking for right now. If he can take a Gale Frost 1 prize, it's certainly helpful. We are going to see a Zigzagoon ping onto a Heatran here.
It's going to take a while to get up there.
Well, this just stops Heatran from yoinking energies, right? Because there's a Mimikyu in play.
He's got Mimikyu in play, of course he does. So we finally see Mimikyu doing its thing, turning off the ability of that Heatran, because there's a damage counter on, so that's actually really quite big. If you're going to start Mimikyu, you might as well use it.
Interestingly, Tord chooses to attach before the Marnie here, so he doesn't want to attack at all by the looks of things this turn. He does find double VMAX. That's nice against Boss's Orders plays, potentially. We are going to see the retreat into the Dedenne GX. Dedenne is ironically super tanky against Victini V. Most other decks just go straight for it and take the KOs. Kevin, though, he does have Rope Boss, so he's got better options here for sure.
He
can
does.
also draw cards with Kricketune. This is nice.
Yeah, I love this. Get Kricketune into the active, and then you got the Air Balloon to retreat out. Kricketune really doing the best it can. There's that double VMAX play from Tord has kind of hurt Kevin here, because Kevin, let's face it, he wanted to take just an easy couple of prizes, and that's just not an option anymore. So has got a bunch of energy. He's going after Chinchino. I like this play. We got an exciting stage all the way to 4, and going to be taking out Tord's draw when Tord is sitting on a free card hand.
Yeah, this is very smart. I think every card was good to take a knockout there on, to be honest. The Zigzagoon stops a Scoop Up Net 2-shot on the VMAX. The Mimikyu re-enables your Heatran. So basically everything was a good prize there. And Tord is forced to go back into Dedenne GX. So that Rope coming up trumps. Rope Boss, really, really nice for the Victini here.
Really is. Now, Kevin did get the Mewtwo and Mew off the prizes.
Nice.
Interesting. Had he taken the prizes in the way the majority of the players do, it would have been his last prize, but mixed it up to find it. Oh, and it looks like we got Boss's Orders to stall on the Heatran, and then just a Gormandise. So Tord has nothing going on and just takes a turn to, well, just refill.
Yeah, nicely identified by Kevin, seeing Tord on that low hand size, just one Make Do, take it away from him. So we may be seeing Mewtwo hit the board and then just a Research looking for switch outs here, more than likely.
Potentially. The problem with playing Mewtwo and Mewtwo early, of course, is that now if Tord hits a Scoop Up Net, he can ping it with Headbutt Tantrum, just like he did with Heatran. And because there's no Psychic Energy in Kevin's deck, that Mewtwo and Mew becomes absolutely pointless if there's any damage on it. So you really want to try and time that Mewtwo and Mew so you play it Welder Smash. You don't
Yeah.
really want to leave it sitting on the bench and use it in a turn or two.
No, exactly, because now Tord has been gormandizing up to a large hand size. Kevin, once again, does establish that Wondrous Labyrinth. That's in for the remainder of the game, but it does limit his own attacking options here. We may be seeing attached Spreading Flames to end the turn for Kevin. Really has to debate this. The clock ticking down on him.
Well, he does have the counter stadium, remember, so he can get rid of it in future turns, but it is going to be there for as long as Kevin wants it there, basically. So forcing Tord to have a Rapid Strike energy just to do the 150 and turning off the potential Karate Belt Rapid Strike energy plays that we've seen Tord absolutely has been seeing how to do them.
Yeah, and Tord has the Karate Belt established, so it's already there for him. We only see an air balloon onto the other Urshifu VMAX. Tord looking for some scoop up nets / bird keepers for sure this turn to move the chunky Snorlax that's currently in the active. He wants to start getting to work with some Gale Thrusts. In a way, you kind of like this Heatran being in the active as well, because it forces Kevin to have those switch outs, and you don't know that he's missed them. So you might want to get in there, get some damage on the Heatran so you can snipe KO it later on.
Yeah, that is always a nice option. Now we see the Minccino coming down. And an air balloon, there's no pinging onto the Mewtwo and Mew here.
Tord needs the cards, I think. He's re-establishing Cinccino instead. He's going to take another turn gormandizing by the looks of things.
He is. And of course, you cannot Welder and Boss's orders in the same turn. So Tord knows that those Urshifu are basically safe at this stage because there's not enough energy on the Mewtwo and Mew. So yeah, another turn of Gormandize. I mean, this is not what Tord wants. This is not what his deck is built to do. It doesn't have 4 Snorlax in. This is not his primary game plan. It's just what he's got to do at this stage. And this is round 1. This is, this is the worst time to fall into the loser's bracket. Essentially, the earlier you fall into the loser's bracket, the more games you have to win to make it to grand finals. So this is, the later you, if you're going to lose, the later you lose, the better. You don't want a round 1 loss, and Tord is not looking forward. Something needs to start going better is what I'm trying to say.
That said, Kevin doesn't have an easy way through the Snorlax. It looks like it could be another turn that Tord's bought for free here. Kevin can replace the stadium, get an attachment down onto Mewtwo and Mew if he wants to, but no attack that he can use right now to get through the Snorlax, and no way around it, so yeah, it's a free turn unless this Kricketune has something to say about it by the looks of things.
Yeah, that's not ideal. I mean, Kricketune, to be fair, can draw 3 cards here, it looks like. Because presumably this will be a VMAX, evolve up, 1 card in hand, Kricketune gets 3. So there's still options going on here. But you're right, Kevin is not... There's nothing great going on his side of the board. He's got lots of Pokemon out, but nothing's really working.
A couple nice supporters for him. Yeah, he can continue to chase down the Mincinos if he wants to. He could knock out the Mimikyu if you think it's worthwhile as well. Yeah, he's going to go Mimikyu. I like this a lot because you're setting yourself into a position where the Heatran can actually be usable again, basically freeing up a board space for you. This is really nice.
Well, the Mewtwo and Mew. Kevin is clearly building up that Mewtwo and Mew, and the last thing you want is for Tord, now he's got a bench space to go, Galarian Zigzagoon, now it's pointless.
Yeah.
It's wasted energy. So, no, I really like this play from Kevin. I think the Mimikyu there was absolutely the right one to go for, and Kevin is really making life difficult for Tord in this series. It seems like a lot of what Kevin's game plan is slowing down Tord. It's not the Victini we've seen in the past where it's, I'm chasing down your Vs and smashing. It's, there goes your draw engine. There goes your Mimikyu. And just picking away at Tord's game plan, and frankly, it's working.
Yeah, and he's got himself in a position now where he can easily deal with pretty much anything in Tord's active position. The Heatran can yoink a bunch of energies, and the Mewtwo's hitting for weakness, so he's built a really robust board. He has the Kricketune against any stamp plays coming in as well. So Tord has a difficult time of finding answers here. He's had a couple of turns off just gormandizing. Can he finally get something working here and getting damage into play?
I mean, he really needs to, because the thing is, at this stage, it's not like he's got any huge plays. Now, he can use the bigger attack on the Urshifu with a Rapid Strike energy. Now the Wondrous Labyrinth has gone away. That could start softening up some Pokemon, could KO the Volcanion if he wanted. could go for what he was doing in the previous game, hitting into Victini or Kricketune or whatever, but as it stands at the moment, I mean, Tor just really needs to start getting some damage on the board. Doesn't need to start taking prizes. Urshifu doesn't necessarily need to do that, but needs to get something going here.
He's going to scoop up net his Mewtwo once again. Going to continue to scoop up net, actually. Also going to pick up the Snorlax. We'll see if he can actually launch any attacks here. Minccino is going to replace that board slot. We'll see if there's any energy off this Marnie. At the very least, he could just use the Karate Belt to poke for 150. We're going to see the Giant Hearth now remove an Urshifu V from his hand. Just to reset the deck, possibly. And then the Marnie.
Yeah, I mean, 150, and as far as poking goes, 150 is a pretty aggressive poke.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. It's the spiritual reprint of Galissapod GX that was such a playable card for so many years. Actually, a card that Tord knows very well. Played it alongside Zoroark for a few big tournaments to great success. We finally do see energy. It's actually the Rapid Strike energy, so there is the option to Gmax Rapid Flow this turn.
Would be a nice option. The problem with that is it's hard to two-hit KO the VMAX doing that. 150 plus 150 and a Galarian Zigzagoon, there's your KO. 150, 120 leaves you 40 damage short, but you could go after some multiple prizes, go after the Kricketune, etc. Could even put the 120 onto Mewtwo and Mew, knowing that it is then just 150 away from being KO'd. Like we've said, that 120 plus 150 being absolutely crucial on these tag team GXs. So that might be a route Tord wants to go here. It's just hard to get the Victini.
Yeah, I think certainly the Mewtwo has to get tagged here, and possibly the Kricketune as well if you're once again looking for stamp win conditions.
That's
so I think he's starting to fall behind a little bit. That could easily be the route here.
They're the two I'm eyeing up, the Kricketune and the Mewtwo and Mew. It's obviously not an easy decision, you know. Tor's taken a while to think about it. This is not an obvious decision, but I think your draw engine and your biggest threat. The Victini VMAX, it hurts to ignore it. You don't want to ignore it, but actually goes for the prize. And obviously the Mewtwo and Mew, that was a given.
The prize is also reasonable. It's part of your map. It's part of your path. It means that Kevin gets instantly punished if he has to Dede Change or Crobat out to dig here this turn. But as it stands, Kevin's got like a nice few turns set up for him. He's already got 2 Victini VMAX powered up. The Mewtwo could be coming in if he wants it to. There's an Air Balloon on top here as well. So we could be seeing Welder, even to Heatran here at this point. Or just onto Mewtwo just for the 1, and then you manually attach somewhere else on the board. Air Balloon out of the VMAX and just go with the Mewtwo swing here.
I think you've got a Mewtwo swing. You just take out the VMAX, and then you're down to 1 prize remaining, which is awkward because has Tord played his reset stamp?
1's gone, but he does play 2 copies.
That's what I thought. So he does have a reset stamp still available, but it's not the same as last game. Because if Tord attacks with a Mewtwo and Mew, if Kevin attacks a Mewtwo and Mew, and then Tord gets a KO and reset stamps, there are 2 Victini established and a Kricketune to draw cards, which is a just much, much different game to where we were last time. So I think here, take the KO with Mewtwo and Mew. I don't think reset stamp is quite as terrifying as it could be in some other circumstances.
No, because Tord has to deal with the Mewtwo, and then the Kricketune is just going to sit there and at least top up, back up to 4. So Kevin's got a really robust board here, and he can easily take a KO using the Flare Strike. You keep the option open to then Hot Burn GX, so the Heatran is also kind of able to get in there if Kevin's able to piece together any Fire Crystals. So I believe he's out of Fire Energies in his deck now. Only 9 cards remaining in there.
Yeah, so I think that's absolutely the way to go. It's a great option, down to 1 card and actually pulled 2 Dedenne. So we see in his hand at the moment, he's got 2 Dedenne and a Quick Ball. All of them are going to be in his deck, along with the Kricketune draw, and Kevin really is down to just, if he hits the boss's orders, which we know he's got, it's in his hand, he can just go after the Cinccino. Can Tord really double scoop up net both of them away like he did last game?
And even then, there's the Hot Burn that can even deal with the Dedenne, which can't be scoop up netted. So there's no denial this way round on Tord's side. He's going to start off with a Quick Ball, get rid of a Bird Keeper. Going to see a Mind Report Mewtwo coming in that he can instantly make do. So it might be that he's going for another Marnie play here. Just Marnie, Gale Thrust, and Hope.
Yeah, the options are not good for Tord. You know, Tord's such a good player. We like to sit here and go, oh, he's planning something. But I think at this stage of the game, he's down by 4 prizes. And the thing that Kevin has done so beautifully this game is his board. He's got Kricketune there with the air balloon. He's got 2 Victini VMAX, both of which have the double energy on. He's managed to make use of the Mewtwo and Mew, and it was a little play, but using Boss's orders to take out that Mimikyu earlier in the game was such a huge play to keep that to keep the Mewtwo and Mew on board in terms of being able to be used. We are getting to the stage here where Tord, is there any way back for him? I'm not sure outside of take a KO, reset stamp, and cross your fingers.
Yeah, that's where we're at by the looks of things. And the Kricketune is such a good card at that late game stage when the reset stamp ruins all your plans. The Kricketune gets you straight back into a good spot a lot of the time. And as you say, his hand right now, Kevin's, is just full of outs. So his deck has very few non-usable cards at this stage.
To Kricketune and get up to 4 cards in hand and whiff all the outs, that would be unlikely, is the polite way to say it. I do think Kevin, it's not unlosable, but he really has got this game on lockdown at this stage. So we do see the money coming down from Tord. That is going to lower Kevin's hand size. We could obviously see a recess stamp following after this. Oh, no.
It's just from the Mewtwo right now. It's going to get Make Dude, so he can play that money. It's about to come down. Don't worry about it.
I was like, wait, I saw the money. Where's the money? But it was. I was too far ahead of myself.
We see the Rapid Strike energy. So a Gale Frost will certainly knock out this active Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. Tord can scoop up at the Mewtwo now. Marnie himself into a different supporter. No, he's just going to keep the option open for Mewtwo later on and just get himself a fresh 5. Put Kevin out of Boss's orders for now. But still a number of cards for Kevin to get over the line here.
Oh, it's Boss. Oh, there's a reset stamp to 1.
Tord will try again. It's down to Kricketune now. Oh, that's huge. That's a
yeah, because we know there are Dedenne in Kevin's deck, and whatever he draws. So I suppose you Kricketune up to 4, or you quick ball for the Dedenne, then you Kricketune to draw 3 cards, and if you don't hit it, then you play Dedenne. This is... yeah, this is great here.
You can half and hold the quick ball if you have Crobat and Dedenne in the deck as well.
You absolutely can. Yeah, and you do. Yeah. So either of those is fine. But drawing 3 off Kricketune, knowing you've got the quick ball ready to go, I mean, he can whiff. I think it's not statistically guaranteed. But, oh, there's the Boss and the Dedenne and the quick ball. And Kevin is going to take the 2-1 victory. And we see Urshifu go down. That is, well, Victini is going to use Max Victory on Vicino. And then we see Urshifu going down. Kevin Krueger takes the narrow 2-1 victory, heads on through the winner's bracket.
Yeah, really well played from Kevin there. Really was able to establish such a robust board that anything that Tord could do sort of comeback-wise was really shut off from him, threatening on so many fronts. There was the Heatran there, there was the Mewtwo there, identifying the Mimikyu as the only sort of roadblock to those easy prizes was taken out early with a Boss's orders. So Kevin's very aggressive, gusting approach